So we're going to continue where we left off. We're on page 125a, Kuf Kaf Hey Aleph, if you want to follow. And briefly, yesterday we were talking about the mixing of the meat and the dairy, how in the world above, when one mixes the meat and dairy in this world, it's mixing the control of the Kedusha and the Klippa. And we were explaining that the domain of Kedusha, of holiness, is considered the Pnimiyut, the inside, and the Klippa is Chitzoniyut, is external. And when one is mixed with the other, then the Klippa has Yenika, has power to suck energy from the Kedusha. And it was compared to a calf in the mother's milk. What is interesting here is that the Torah says Gdi. Gdi is not a calf. Gdi is a goat. So I don't know why it would necessarily, the ones who translate it choose to say a calf in the mother's milk. It's actually a goat, a baby goat.
Kid.
A kid, yeah, a kid. So, but nevertheless, yesterday we were asking, why does it say Imo, his mother? Because the Shekhinah in the world above is also considered the mother, or even of the Klippa, which means the Klippa also has the ability to suck energy from the Kedusha. But the fact that when I'm giving it an opening by doing a sin, then the Klippa has the ability to pull energy from the Kedusha, from the Shekhinah itself. So we went one step back and explained that if you're looking at the actual text, and at first it says, Reshit bikurecha, the first crops and fruit that you have in your field, you give that to Beit Hashem, to the Beit HaMikdash. Lo techalev asher gdi bechalev imo, don't cook the goat in the mother's milk. And right after that it says that Hashem is going to send a malach, an angel. Yesterday we were explaining that the Kadosh Baruch Hu said, if you do what I tell you, then you have my protection. I'm going to be escorting you and guiding you. Originally, Hashem says, I'm just going to send an angel. Moshe Rabbeinu was negotiating on our behalf and said to Hashem, I don't want your angel. I want you to be the one who's guarding us. When Hashem agreed to that, later on, when they sinned in the golden calf, then Hashem right away said, okay, I told you, if you sin against me, then I leave you. And Moshe Rabbeinu already caught him on his word and says, but you promised me, you told me that if we guard the law of milk and dairy, and meat and dairy, then you're not going to leave us. So Moshe Rabbeinu already, so to say, and not nice to say that, but he kind of cornered Hashem to say, well, I already got a promise from you that as long as we keep the rules of meat and dairy, then you're not going to leave us. So that's yesterday when we were saying that the Kadosh Baruch Hu said, I'm going to send an angel. But nevertheless, we explained that the Klippa, the Samech Mem, the second that I give it an opportunity to go against me, then it will go against me. And I feed energy from either from Tzad Kedusha, the side of holiness, or from the side of impurity. So this is very briefly what we were talking about the last couple of days. Now we'll do one last part, and then we can, let's see if we get to the end, and then we're actually not going to get to the end. But then we can more conclude it. So we also were explaining by another part that the nation of Israel, that the Zohar calls it a holy offspring, a Zera Kadosh, then we're not allowed to eat the meat and the dairy, not allowed to mix it, because it's mixing the Kedusha and the Tumah together, the impurity and the purity together. And then of course it said that when I will transgress this prohibition, then I'm giving control to the Klippa to take energy from Kedusha. Now he continues in saying, we are in page Kuf Cafe 125b, and it says, Tu Ashkachan. One more thing we have found. Where have we found it? We found it in the book of Shlomo HaMelech. It's not specifying which book of Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech wrote many books. But nevertheless, he just says, we have learned, we also found in the book of Shlomo HaMelech. What did we find in the book of Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon? Dechol man de'achil, any person that eats. Hai mechla ditchabar kachada, any person that eats food that will connect the meat and the dairy together, meaning a pepperoni pizza or a cheesesteak or how do you call it, a cheeseburger and so forth.
Chicken fettuccine.
A chicken fettuccine. We can now pull up a menu with all the chicken and mushrooms and cream sauce and so forth. But nevertheless, any person that eats a dish that is mixed with the meat and the dairy when they got together, or b'shat achada, even if we didn't mix the meat and the dairy together, even if it's in 1 hour but in 2 meals. I ate now a sandwich, and half an hour later I had something dairy. I mixed, not even together. Or besudat achada, or that it's in the same meal, but even if it's smeared on a long meal. I had a first course, and then I waited, and then I had another course. Nevertheless, either way you're looking at it, he's giving us 3 options. Either that the meat and the dairy are mixed together, either that it's 2 separate meals, that I had now a piece of pizza, or a piece of meat. I waited a little bit, within an hour I ate another one from a different kind, or that it's 1 long meal. Either way, if I do one of these 3, this is considered a sin, and I'm not allowed to mix the meat and dairy. What happens if this is going to be the case? 40 yomin itchazya gadya mikulasa. 40 days, what would be revealed is this goat. Now, if you remember, on Yom Kippur, we also use a goat, a hairy one, a sa'ir la'azazel. And we take this goat and we make a lottery. We actually take 2 goats. And 1 goat who wins the lottery goes to become a sacrifice. And the other goat, somebody escorts him to the valley and gives him a kick in the tuchus, and the goat will start falling down the cliff. And by the time it gets to the end, is minced meat already. But nevertheless, this goat that it's referring to, it's called gdi chitzoni. This goat that belongs to the outer realm. What does that mean? This means it refers to the Samech Mem, to the devil himself. Like I said, in some religions of faith, the shape of the Satan, of the devil, looks like a goat with the horns and the whole look. But nevertheless, 40 days, what is revealed is this external goat, meaning the Samech Mem, the Satan himself. Now what is he doing? He's already armed. It says, Mezurazu mezuyan bichlei zeino. He's ready to act, and he's armed already with his weapons. What is...
40 days after the person's sin.
Yeah, 40 days. I ate today the cheeseburger, and from now on, count 40 days that I'm hovering over me, is hovering me a cloud of this Satan. And he's waiting there armed, and he's ready to attack. Now what is his gear? What is his weapons? Kochot hadin, the powers of judgment. Because he goes up to Shamayim and he says to Hashem, remember the deal that you told your children then, before they left Egypt, not to meet mixed and dairy? When Mr. Goldstein meets mixed and dairy, I have pictures of him, I have videos of him, I have witnesses. So the weapons of the Samech Mem is only his din, his judgment against us. Now, what does it mean that he's covered with his armor or his weapons? Meaning, beklipoi, he's in his shell, in his klipa. Saying in other words, yachad im pirtei merkavto, he's there with all the details of his chariot. And the chariot has subcategories. It's called in Hebrew histafut, when something splits. So his power is that he's surrounded with his own shell, with a klipa. Legabe inu dil'ela. Now what does he do? He goes up to the world above with his power of judgment, and he arouses dinim, arouses judgment against this individual. And this goes on for 40 days. 40 days you have this on hovering above you. Why specifically 40 days? Why is this din, this judgment is against you for 40 days? Because in the side of Kedusha and the side of holiness, now when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the mountain, how many days he went to? He went to 40 days. So 40 days, Moshe Rabbeinu had to go up to Shamayim. וכנגדם יש ממלכויות בחוץ. And as to correspond to these 40 days of Moshe Rabbeinu going up and the 40 days of judgment, then down here, the Beit Din, the maximum lashes one can get will be 40 lashes. Corresponding to each day. ולזה צריך שמירה מם יום לעבירה, which means that if I sinned in meat and dairy, 40 days I need guardians. I'm now under a magnifying glass. כי אז יש שליטת החיצוניים עליו. The חיצונים, the klipa is controlling me, has an upper power on me, upper hand on me. ומנדים אותו בהיכלות שלהם. And now this individual is, I don't know if nidu is called exclusion, but he's not allowed to come into to the chambers in the world above. This is called nidui. When somebody is being pushed out, and sometimes a person can do a sin, and 40 days your prayers are not being heard. They're going into the oblivious, to the air. So this is how severe mixing meat and dairy is. וסייעת עד מסבא מתקרבין בהדה, and a lot of sayat is like like in the army you have a platoon and they're under fire or they want to be stronger, they call for backup. I need backup. So you send another few platoons. So this is called the sayat. So a few more of these impure additions, hamishtalshelot mimeno. Just imagine, this is my theory, not my theory, my analogy. Imagine now the samech mem, he has extensions. I picture it like a octopus. That the octopus suddenly has more legs and he sends his legs out. Nevertheless, the samech mem also, he has these extensions of impurity and they manifest from him. And what do? They are able to come down to the world below and to arouse judgment in the world below. And he says, "Od she'aochel basar v'chalav." This is when the person is mixing meat and dairy. Vegarim le'atara dinin be'alma. So he's arousing dinim, judgments in the world below. Dinin de la kadishin. These are judgments that are not holy. Some of the judgments can be kedusha, could be dinim of kedusha, but this is dinim. This is judgment that has no kedusha in it. Why? כי בעוון זה מתעורר הדין בעולם. In this act, in this sin of the mixing of the meat and dairy, you're arousing judgment in the world. What happens with this judgment? להעניש גם על כל שאר העוונות. To punish for the rest of the sins. So this sin arouses other sins. שעד עתה היה פה השטן סתום, והוא גרם לפתחו. Sometimes I have a sin, and there's a defense against it. Yesterday we talked about your personal situation. Sometimes could be a sin and came with it a lot of good intention, came with it some good acts, good thoughts, and the sin is kind of shut down. There's a defense stronger than the sin. But here comes from this severity of the sin, then when it arouses more judgment in the world below, now it's going to attach it to the other sins and arouse more dinim. If we would know every second how much judgment is against us, then probably we wouldn't sleep so comfortable. The Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us a gift that we don't see what's going on against us. But just imagine, here I don't have a car here in Tzfat, but I think in Tzfat there's the same problem. But when I lived in New York, if you own a car, then the upkeeping of the car is X amount of money, and the tickets is 3 times as much. So that's how it is in New York. It will cost you to release the car $300, the insurance, the gas, and everything will be, let's say, another $200-300, and tickets are $1,500 because you don't even blink, you get a ticket. So that's New York. So you take into consideration the cost in the car is how much tickets you're paying. Now some people, what happens is that they ignore it. They think the tickets will evaporate or dissolve in the air. And then suddenly one day they wake up in the morning and there's no car. Where's the car? Well, the city took it. Or you find a boot on the car. Now you're stuck there. So that happened to me. I'm talking from experience. I was young and full, and I thought that the tickets that if you don't pay them, then somebody forgets. No, they don't forget. The city of New York, they don't forget. And one morning I woke up, and what do you know? Where's the car? Ay, ay, ay. Now go and release it, go to the sheriff, pay the tickets, pay the fine, pay the towing, and the headache. So, same thing here. We lie, we cheat, we slander, we do so many things. 2 days later I forgot. The fact that I lied 3 days ago, I forgot about it. The fact that 2 weeks ago I slandered somebody and I humiliated him in public or stole or whatever, I forgot. Oh, it was 2 weeks ago. I don't remember what I did 2 weeks ago. But it's like the tickets, they get collected. Now sometimes I do a certain act, which is it's according to the definition, is a sin. I'm not allowed to do that. But maybe on that day, give a lot of charity, I helped somebody, I went out of my way, I really controlled my anger, I did something good, and the power of the good kind of shadows over the bad. So it's kind of smeared. You don't really, it's not, there's not much of a judgment against it. But don't think for 1 second that if you do something bad, there's not a lawsuit against you. If I now open my mouth and I say a lie, on the moment, instantly, faster than the internet, there's a lawsuit in Shamayim. Alon Anava, social security number XYZ, he lied today, and it's marked the hour, the time, 17 pictures. A few months ago I was in London, I did there a tour of lectures, and usually the tours are very hectic, so from one lecture to the other I drove very fast. And sure enough, 2 months later I get in the mail a picture, the car, me in the car, now everything is cameras, you can't say it wasn't me. They take a picture of your license plate, of your face, of your finger in the nose, they have all the pictures. You can't say it's not me. Same thing here, everything is recorded. So one cannot say, oh, it wasn't me, I didn't do that. So we have to also understand that there's every time there's a bad act, right away there's a prosecution. They don't ignore it in the world above. Just that the Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us a loophole. And he said, do tshuva every day at the end of the day, and you can erase it. So our sages told us, sit 10 minutes before you go to bed, sit next to your bed, say Kriyat Shema al Hamitah. Take 5 minutes to make an account, what I did today. You know, there's a custom by Hasidim that they used to take a notebook and write at the end of the day what they did. Why? Because it's fresh in my mind. And I remember, okay, 9 o'clock in the morning, I screamed at my neighbor, I shouldn't have, tomorrow go and apologize. 11:30, I exaggerated when I needed to get something done. Exaggerating really is, according to halakha, exaggerating is a lie. Don't think for 1 second that it's called a white lie. People inventing all sorts of colors, white lie, a blue lie. Doesn't matter. Exaggerating, according to halakha, is a lie. And you're not allowed to lie. We just read the 10 Commandments. So, if you do tshuva at the end of the day, it's fresh in your mind. The next day you can right away give back what you took by mistake or deliberately. You can apologize. You fix it up. You know why? Because after 72 hours you don't remember what you did anymore. And then it schleps more and more and more. And if you think that on Yom Kippur you're going to remember what you did in Kaf Dalet Bekislev 11 months before that, I guarantee to you don't remember. I don't remember what I did 3 days ago. Why would I remember on Yom Kippur what I did? So the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, listen, I understand you fail here and there, but be smart. And comes the end of the day, instead of being on Facebook for 2 hours, be on Facebook an hour, and do tshuva at the end of the day. And review your day. And you want to take it very serious, because if you do tshuva, the Rizal says, if you do real tshuva with the right intention at the end of the night, you have the ability to completely erase the sins. And if chas v'shalom, it's a sin that cannot be erased on the spot, but your tshuva puts the sin on hold. I told you already. This is explained in Tractate Yoma. The Malatanya explains it in depth in Shara, in the third part of the Tanya, of Igeret HaTshuva. He explains it in depth, that if you do a sin, right away there's a prosecution against you. But if you do tshuva, you know what it does? It puts the case on hold. They move the case. Now let's wait till Yom Kippur. At least now I'm not under a laser beam. It's on hold. So very important to do tshuva every day. Now let's continue what he says. Now I have a problem. I had a cheeseburger intentionally by mistake. It doesn't matter. This is one of the sins that even if you didn't have the kavanah, you didn't have the intention, you still ate it. You still did the problem. So some sins you need an intention. And if there's no intention, then there's not a problem. But here, if I, by mistake, ate meat and dairy, even if I don't know, I just found out later, doesn't matter, it's still in the system. Now, for 40 days, I'm under a spotlight. You know how when you're standing on a stage, you know the performer, he walks and the spotlight goes after him? Then 40 days, there's a spotlight above you. This is not fun. So it says here, kacha, ve'i olid bar be'inun yomin. Now, if he gave birth to a boy in these 40 days, ozpin nishmata misrita achara. What happens is, besides his holy soul, now they bring to him another soul. Now it doesn't talk about a physical son that you had a birth to give to a son. A son can be many different things. We're going to explain in a second. You can give birth to a nefesh. Nefesh is the lowest part of our soul, and our soul is built from 5 components. To be exact, it's actually 125 components. But it starts with 5 levels. From bottom to below is nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. But I explained already a couple of times, each level is built from 5 levels, that each one of these 5 are built from another 5. So you have 5 times 5 times 5. 125 levels, like an onion with another layer and another layer, which the lowest of all will be nefesh, the nefesh, the nefesh, and the highest of all will be yechida, the yechida, the yechida. But I explained it more in depth in other classes. But nevertheless, the nefesh is the lowest of all of the components of the soul. I have the ability to give birth to more nefashot. And I'm sure you noticed, unfortunately many people don't notice, but when you drink water, or you eat an apple, or anything that the bracha, the blast bracha is not required along bracha, so the after bracha, what do you say? Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, borei nefashot rabot. I have the ability to create many nefashot. A nefesh chaya. That's a son, that's a child. So it says here, now, if in those 40 days you gave birth to another child, they attach to it another soul, but it's coming from the sitra acha, from the other side of holiness. Now you have more power to help you sin. So suddenly you have more desire to sin, more lust for something forbidden. Now you're much less on guard before you want to hold yourself from sinning. Just make yourself an analogy. Sometimes there's an opportunity to sin and you're like a warrior. No, never. Don't even think about it. You stop the opportunity right away. But I'm sure you notice that sometimes you jump on the sin like that. It's like an opportunity. You can't stand the temptation. Why? Because they attach to you another neshama, another soul, but it's coming from the sitra acha. The la itztricha, that she doesn't, this extra soul doesn't need you, but it makes you impure. Inami, uzpile, the word uzpile is like the translation, the right translation is a loan. They give you an extra soul for a loan. This can happen in the positive side, by the way. If you do a lot of good acts, amazing mitzvot, and you really, really work on yourself, and you do a lot of effort, then you know what can happen? A soul of a tzaddik can come and assist you. This is called the ibur. Now it can be in the level of nefesh, in the level of ruach, and level of neshama. And you can do an amazing act. Just imagine a person, he has zero patience, zero tolerance, can't stand people around him, and so forth. And then he does a huge mitzvah and he takes a guest into his small apartment for 2 weeks. That guest is sleeping on his couch, making a mess everywhere, eating all his food, and he's doing an unbelievable achnasat orchim. He has his mouth shut and he's about to explode, but he knows that person has nowhere to stay, and he's doing an unbelievable mitzvah. He's overpowering his anger, his patience, his impatience, and he's not saying anything. Suddenly he's elevating himself to such a high level that he can have a nefesh of a tzaddik get dressed in him and assist him. This is called sayata dishmaya, a help from above. most likely, that's also what the Baal Shem Tov says, we can't do anything without Sayata Dishmaya. You can't even blink without them helping you from above. So when we take credit for the tshuva that we did, that's arrogance. You have to be humble and say to Hashem, thank you for allowing me to do tshuva. Thank you. I say, before I do any mitzvah, I say quietly a thank you to Hashem, a personal thank you. When I put tefillin on, I say to Hashem quietly, thank you for allowing me to put the tefillin on. Because if Hashem will put the switch down, I'm not going to put tefillin that day. I'm going to have a yetzer hara that will tell me, stay in bed. It's okay. You can put the tefillin on at 12. I'll wake you up. Then comes 12, you check your emails, you go to shopping, suddenly it's 2, then you have an appointment at 3, the yetzer hara tells you, don't worry, Shkia, the sun sets, you still have time. And then 5 minutes before Shkia, I didn't put tefillin on today. Or sometimes you're not lucky and it's after the sun goes down and you can't even put the tefillin on. And you kick yourself in the head, I missed tefillin today. I can't believe it. How did I miss that? Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu turned the switch down. There wasn't a Sayata Deshmaya. There wasn't assistance there. And I'm talking from experience. I'm not talking, this happens to everybody. I'm saying with tefillin, it can be with Birkat Hamazon. How many times you wash for bread? And the Yetzer Hara, he disturbs you. Here's an email and a phone call and something, and before you know it, 2 hours passed. I didn't say Birkat Hamazon. I didn't say bench for the food. So the Yetzer Hara has many ways to make you distracted. And every act that you do, you have to thank Hashem from the bottom of your heart for allowing you to even do that. Because if Hashem says today, I don't want to help you, then you are going to be like a cement box that doesn't move, and the Yetzer Hara is going to wrap you around his finger and you're not going to do nothing that day. Not because you're a bad person, because that's the truth. Now a lot of people in a forum of people say, no, me, no. But you do your own cheshbon nefesh and you come to the conclusion that some days, who am I kidding? Today there wasn't any assistance. Everything was heavy. And you have to, how they say in America, put your hand on your heart. Be honest. Don't, I know it's hard in a group of people to confess and say, who am I kidding? I didn't do this, I didn't do that. And this happens to the best of us. The point to understand from that Hashem is allowing me to participate. V'ten chelkenu b'toratecha, we say, give us a portion in your Torah. You know what a merit it is? The fact that you show up to the minyan, that Hashem pushed you. Who do you think pushes you out of bed? Who do you think makes you want to do the mitzvah? Kadosh Baruch Hu allows that. And how is that? That sometimes Hashem gives you a loan, so to say, and He gives you a boost. The term in the Zohar is a loan. I'll give you some extra energy. But sometimes the loan comes from the other side. The loan comes from the side of Klippah. And then you have more desire to sin, more desire to do things that are impure and immoral. And nevertheless, he says here, the word uzbinle is like they're giving you a loan. Saying in other words, you're giving you by a loaner an extra soul that makes you impure. Like you imagine now you go swimming. I mean, that's what we used to do in the army. When they trained us to swim in hard conditions, then you swim with 60 kilos on you. Now it pulls you into the water. You can't really swim. You feel like you're going down. Same thing here. They give you a loaner. Here, we'll give you a soul, a very impure soul, and it will pull you down. And suddenly you're sitting and learning, you're thinking of a million and other things. You're coming to pray, you forgot where you are. Your thoughts take you suddenly to Wonderland. You forgot where you're holding. I don't even know where I was doing. Did I say the bracha? I didn't say the bracha. How many times you find yourself and you're like kind of like blacked out? So this is a loner now driving you crazy. Now it says like this. It's called alone. She'im haben yitaer atzmo tivrach haneshama tmea mimeno. If you do tshuva, then the impure soul will run away from you, because the light of the tshuva and the Torah cannot stand next to you. I'm sure you're familiar with the term that it says in the Talmud, Habali ta'er mesa'inuto. If you are willing, if you have the desire to do tshuva, they assist you. Aval habali tama, az metamim oto. If you say, no, I'll take care of it by myself, okay, let's see. You know, there's another concept in the Torah that says, Kol ha'omer echtav ve'ashuv, en maspikim be'ado lasot tshuva. Any person that says, listen, today is a good opportunity to do the sin. I'll do the sin. I'll enjoy it tonight. Tomorrow I'll do the tshuva. But today, I can't control my urge. Tomorrow I'll do tshuva. Saying, in other words, I'm counting on the fact that tomorrow I'll do tshuva. So this says, כל האומר אחטא ואשוב, I will do the sin now, but tomorrow I'll do תשובה. אין מספיקים בידו לעשות תשובה. They're not going to have any assistance to do תשובה. Then your tshuva process is 10 times harder, because there's no assistance. But it says here, if the person got a loner, a bad soul, an impure soul, that pulls you down, but if you do tshuva, and you do hishtadlut, a lot of effort, then you kick away that soul. You push it away from you. ואתה חוזר אל האוכל עצמו. Sorry, this is the first paragraph. שאם הבן יתאר עצמו, תברח הנשמה הטמאה ממנו. If the person will do tshuva, then he pushes the impure soul. ואתה, now, let's go back to the food, back again to the food, because we talked about the food. He says, וכתיב, והתקדישתם והייתם קדושים. This is a verse in the book of Vayikra, chapter 11, where it says, the Kadosh Baruch Hu tells us, make yourself pure and holy so you can be holy. Holy in Hebrew is kadosh, but in English it doesn't work well, kadosh, because the word in Hebrew, kadosh, is separated. Holy, you imagine somebody is hovering over the ground. But the word in Hebrew, I mean the translation is not correct, but the word in Hebrew, kadosh, means separated. I'm here, you there. Meaning that I'm in a greater place, a holy individual. He doesn't go out with you to the bar. He doesn't listen to dirty jokes. He doesn't interest him what we want to share with him. He's holy, he's separated. So here he says, the Torah says, please make yourself pure and make yourself holy so you can be holy. Meaning that it depends on you. You choose if you want to be holy or not. You can choose what you listen to. You choose what you eat. You choose what you look at. It's your choice. But you know what happens? At some point, after you get so many choices, and you don't do the right choice, at some point then the Kadosh Baruch Hu also will take that away. But Hashem will give you opportunities, and He says, here's good, here's bad. You choose what you want. If the person has the desire to become impure, then they throw on him impurity. And it says, if you want to get impure, then you'll find how to get it. You know, unfortunately, many men, they have, many men, 99.9999999% of all men in the world are struggling, battling the same desire for forbidden relations. And this is totally normal. I mean, it's not normal, but everybody is battling this. A fraction, you're talking here and there, one or two that don't. But nevertheless, in our days of age, you know, the biggest pit of impurity is the internet. In the press of a button, you can be wherever you want. So many men, what they do is they'll put all sorts of filters on the computer. Filters, blocks, all sorts of gadgets that you can go into the appropriate websites, and pop-ups don't come up. But that works well when you're relaxed. But when the person has a strong desire, he'll crack all the codes, he'll break all the filters. Why? When you want to get impure, they'll give you all the keys to all the gates. Here, you want to be impure? And I'm giving one example with this department. A person has an issue with gambling, all the money is hidden away, he'll find how to get money. He'll get loans from the neighbors, he'll pawn his watch just to put something to bet. So saying in other words, when you have the desire to be impure, then as you say, nothing stops you. Mesavuta atima mikola. Why? Why is that? Because the impurity, in Hebrew, impurity is called tum'ah. Tum'ah comes from the word in Hebrew atum. Atum is isolated, secluded, completely covered. If you're now completely covered, you don't see anything, you don't hear anything, the tum'ah, the impurity, puts you in some type of a bubble that your senses are off, your logic is off, your common sense is off, you're completely blinded. That's impurity. We're imagining what's impurity, maybe some dirt on me. It's nothing to do with dirt. Again, the words in English don't make much sense. The words in Hebrew make sense. That's why I told you in the morning, hard to learn Torah in English. Because again, impurity in Hebrew is tum'ah. And tum'ah comes from the word atum. Atum is sealed. You know, sometimes you buy food, it's sealed, you know, it's prepared for a nuclear war. how the food is closed. You need the 17 knives to open it. This is tum'ah, that it seals you, and you're stuck in some bubble. So your mind is no common sense there. You're not seeing right, you're not thinking right, you're not acting right. This is impurity. שהטומאה מטמטמת אותו יותר מכל הטומאות. This is another problem, that the tum'ah, this impurity, the word that used in Hebrew is timtum. I know that modern Hebrew timtum or metumtam means stupid, but timtum is when you're kind of like when you're drunk and you don't see well, or somebody gives you a strong punch to your head and you see stars. This is timtum. You find it many times. The Arizal, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria, is talking about that specifically certain things causes timtum hasechel. For example, the Arizal was very particular with kosher diet. He wouldn't eat meat. He wouldn't eat anything that will maybe cause any type of impurity. And he was very particular about that the milk should be a kosher milk. What does it mean, kosher milk? That is supervised by a Jew from the time of the milking till the time that you drink it. In our generation, we call it Chalav Israel. Many people, they brush it off. So, but nevertheless, based on the teachings of the Arizal, specifically Chalav Israel, or I should say the other way around, Chalav Akum, milk that is not kosher, causes timtum sechel. It causes the sechel to be completely, like you're drunk. You don't see well, metushtash, blurry. So you don't think well, you're not acting well, you're not thinking right. Many times young couple, or sometimes even older people, they go on dates, they want to find their other half. Now what happens? You sit in a date, it's very easy to be confused who's sitting in front of you. One way she's nice, maybe she's not nice, she's attractive, she's not attractive, I don't know. Most people, when they sit in front of another person, they don't know if that's the other half or not. There's doubts, maybe, I don't know, I'm not too sure. Very few people go on the date, they look at the person, that's it, that's my wife. My advice always, when people tell me, how do I know that's my other one? Just the other day, somebody texted me, do I know Mekubal that can, by the names of the couple, know if it's the right shidduch? I said, what do you think here in Tzfat, that we have here magicians walking in the streets here? People think that Tzfat, that everybody's like walking here, and seeing direct, Tzfat, I mean, no doubt the holy city, but there's no people here gazing in the stars in Tzfat. But nevertheless, so I told this individual, listen, I don't like doing all these hocus pocus. Work on yourself, pure yourself, pure your thoughts, pure your diet, eat the right way, pray, do mitzvot. Hashem will send you the clarity. The problem with most people, and it's not only with dating. Dating is a big thing. How about business? Sometimes you're sitting in a business deal and you don't know, it's a good business, should I go in? Should I invest here? Should I not invest? It can be when you're looking for a house. It can be with many things, that you are not focused on things. I always say the same thing. Why people go to great rabbis for advice? Why you think that in rabbinical school they give you advice, they give you a book of advice? Why do you go to a great rabbi to ask a question? You know why? Because the great rabbi, if he's real, then he's pure. He prays 3 times a day with the right intention. There's no chance that he's eating something that is not kosher. He's not impure himself with the wrong music and the wrong movies and false language. He's pure. He's holy. He's kadosh. Now what happens is then he sees things clear. There's no distractions. So you tell him, this is my question, and he has clarity. Yeah, that's how it should be. Most people, they have timtum sechel. And I know it doesn't sound nice in Hebrew, timtum. Timtum is really a not nice word, metumtam. It's actually a curse word in Hebrew. But it's coming from timtum. It's something that is most people are like that. And I'm not saying it to chas v'shalom, to mock somebody, but it happens first of all from what we eat. Many people, they think they're following the laws of diet, or kosher diet. They're not eating kosher. You know why? Because the meat is not 100% kosher. There's all sorts of maggots and worms and all sorts of things in the fruit. They don't even bother to check the fruit, and many other things. A little worm this big that you don't even see. It's worse than eating 3 pigs in one shot. And a lot of fruit have a lot of worms in them and little how do you call them? Not the worms. Whatever it is, you know what I'm talking about. The point is that the kosher diet is, very few people, their kosher diet is perfect. They're very particular with not mixing the meat and the dairy, and if they if they eat even meat, and so forth. But the Arizal was very particular, and he was very persistent about the kosher diet makes you completely unbalanced. And not only that, sometimes there's different sins. A person will do a certain sin. He can have a very nice beard and come 3 times a day to the pray and to learn Torah and everything. But if you open the tap, I know many people that they come from earlier than me than to the shul, and they never miss a minyan, and they do many things. But when they're out there in the street, they lie a lot, they cheat, they slander. The Lashon Hara is like, no calculation to the words that are coming out of their mouth. So it impures them. And when the person is impure, it makes the person very, so to say, confused or very not sharp. And then, of course, it adds a lot of problems because then the person has doubts and all sorts of thoughts that are impure. But nevertheless, here he says something very interesting. Mesavuta atima mikola, the tum'ah that comes from this food, it makes the person the most metumtam, most unclear from all the tumot, from all the types of impurity. Now there's impurity that can come from a dead person. That's the severest one, and we're all affected by it. There's no such a thing in our generation that there's some person in the world that doesn't have tumat met on him. We all have tumat met, because the second that the doctor touches you or the midwife touches the baby, right away tumat met. Very soon Mashiach is going to come. The first sacrifice they're going to do is slaughter the red heifer, make the special water, sprinkle on us, and suddenly we'll wake up. This jifa, this disgusting filth is going to be removed from us. This is a severe impurity. But a woman can get impurity of nida, of the cycle. A man can get impurity of sperm. And the sperm on the body also makes impurity. And there's different levels of impurity. Here he says that the impurity of the food, it's one of the worst. You know why? Because when it's a forbidden food, but it goes into your intestines. It goes into your system. This is severe. It goes into the essence of the man. It makes him more impure, worse than all the other sins. Why? That it's not so easy to purify yourself from this impurity of food that is not kosher. Like the rest of the impurities that you get impure from. And he continues, Vetu, and more, by eating meat and dairy, the mistaifei mechevan bishan, the person becomes, gets fears, anxieties, and so forth. Why? It's affecting the body. But he adds here, you know what it also causes? It causes the person to be afraid of animals. So he's afraid of a dog, afraid of a cat, afraid of a little cockroach in the house. Why? Because the animals, they see him as an animal. You remember, there are a few tzaddikim that they didn't have an issue with animals. Daniel was in the pit of the lions. He was, petting them. There was no problem. Yosef was in the pit with snakes and scorpions. Nothing touched him. When an animal is looking at you and it sees that you are an animal, then it's not afraid of you. But if the animal looking at you and it has a tzelem, a shape, a figure, a godly figure, the animal will not touch you. So nevertheless, we know in the Talmud, it says in Tractate Shabbat, En chaya sholetet ba'adam ad shenidma lo kebehema. An animal cannot do anything to you. You know when an animal could do something to you? When you look like an animal. So when you look like an animal, then an animal can touch you. If you have, it doesn't have to be a lion, even how do you call them? The mosquitoes. You know, very soon they're coming back, the mosquitoes, with all the rain. You know, they drive you crazy at night. So I can guarantee to you that a tzaddik doesn't get bit by a mosquito. Why? Because even something as small as this little mosquito, it recognizes you as an animal, it will go and attack you. Le'at zakah, deha tzulma devarnash, it'abar mineh. Now, the person that has this impurity, this is in addition to what he's saying, can be hurt by these bad animals. Why? Because the Tzelem Elokim, the godly shape, the figure, the godly figure in the person is removed from the person. Just by eating meat and dairy. So he's coming and telling us so severe, how severe is the sin. You know, when you see that something is severe in the Torah, then the Torah repeats it. If the Torah says something once, then that's the level of severity. So the more the Torah will repeat something, the more you see that the Torah is taking it serious. So mixing meat and dairy, 3 times the Torah repeats it. So, and there are other sins that we see that it repeats a lot of times, like murder and so forth. But nevertheless, next class we're gonna we'll touch something interesting. Rabbi Yossi asks, "Can I eat chicken with dairy?" Because chicken is not animal, it's not a meat. Anyways, this is the time before the halacha came, and we're not mixing chicken and dairy. But nevertheless, we'll see what Rabbi Yossi says tomorrow about mixing chicken and dairy. But nevertheless, just to conclude very fast, he's becoming very extreme here by telling how severe the mixing meat and dairy is. And mixing meat and dairy can be, like I said, can be in together, a cheeseburger. It can be in separate meals, but next to each other. And we also go to the extent that even if you're mixing the cutlery and the plates, because the cutlery and the plates and the cups, they absorb the taste. You know, when you go to rabbinical school, the first topic that you learn is meat and dairy. I mean, depends. I mean, sometimes they learn it the second topic, the third, but nevertheless, this is one of the topics you get tested for. It's called basar v'chalav, meat and dairy. And the next one is ta'arovot, the mixture of things. You need to know it well, because you need to know exactly when are you mixing things. And it's even to something that seems to you, big deal. So I'm putting the cup and the spoon, big deal. No, you're mixing, it's the same severity. And here he goes to the extent to explain to us that when you mix the meat and dairy, the impurity is so powerful because you take it into your body. And it stays with you. And it causes the person to have, there's no really word in this in English. I call it dizzy or blurry. But confused, we can say confusion. It causes a lot of problems. A lot of people, they have anxieties, fears, uncertainty, panic attacks. All these things, this is the cause of this timtum hasechel, that the brain is not sharp. It's kind of like driving when you're drunk. You're not sure what you're seeing, suddenly something moves. And so how many people in their life, they have so many situations, they're very uncertain in the situation. And they get afraid very quickly. They get fears and anxieties, and unfortunately a lot of people suffer from that. So the answer for that, there's many answers, but one of them, be very particular with your kosher diet. When I became observant, 3 years, I didn't even wear a yarmulke till I became, how they say, into the program. But the first thing that I started with was the kosher diet. Even that was hard. It took me also 2 or 3 years to reach it. But the first of all, not mixing meat and dairy. This is the first thing that I stopped. Mixing meat and dairy, and not eating all sorts of animals that are not kosher. That were my favorite dishes. But that was the first thing that was separated. Needless to say that the more you are refined in your kosher diet, the more you grow spiritually. If you're looking at the diets of great tzaddikim, then you see that the diet is not built from too many things. If you actually go by the records of the majority of great sages, you see they never even ate meat. Meat is not, our body is not designed to eat meat. If you're looking even physically, the jaws, the teeth, the digesting system, we're not built to eat meats. We're not carnivores. When Mashiach is going to come, we're not going to have meat anymore. It's going to be cancelled. Even at a later stage, even the sacrifices will not be meat anymore. The sacrifices will always be oil and barley and what's called mincha and solet. We're not going to have meat anymore. Adam HaRishon till Noach, they weren't allowed to eat meat. So nevertheless, what we want to take from that, tomorrow we'll continue, but what we want to take from that is that my diet will affect me in a very, very profound way. My diet will hit me straight in the stomach. Why? Because it becomes part of me, and it affects me. And if I ate now something wrong, 40 days it's affecting me. I have to go 40 days on a strict diet to get this impurity out of the body, and in that 40 days I will be subject to a lot of attacks from the power of impurity. Why? Because I'm carrying on me this impurity. So the Torah says in Parashat Vayikra, in the book of Vayikra, it says, "V'yitkadishtem," please. Hashem tells us, please make yourself holy. Vayitem kedoshim, and you'll be holy. No foreign, no all sorts of bad thoughts. Your speech is pure. Your thoughts are pure. You don't have all these confusions in your mind and bad thoughts. People have suicidal thoughts and all sorts of anxieties and cuckoo-ness in their mind. And I'm not saying it chas v'shalom to hurt anybody. I'm just making a quick analogy. That's what most people, on the outside, they look, everything's fine. If you were able to tap into what's going on in the mind, the thoughts and the fear and the anxiety and the dreams and the nightmares and all these thoughts, and this person is after me and that person is after me and he's a conspiracy against me. What's going on in your mind? Relax. The mind is working overtime. And this can be totally prevented when the body is our engine. You put now in your car, instead of good gasoline, you'll put cheap gasoline or whatever it is, it's going to ruin the engine. So, to make a long story short, what I put into my mouth is a huge part of how I will function in the world. And the only way to see it is put it to the test. Go on a strict kosher diet, and you'll see that you function in a completely different way. And Bezat Hashem, we should all be kedoshim. That's what the Torah is asking for us, to be holy. Bezat Hashem will continue the rest tomorrow. I don't know how far we can go into it. We'll try. But nevertheless, at least we're getting some tips of kosher diet. Now, all that's left is to wish you bon appetit. רבי חנניה בן הקשה אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל, לפיכך הרבה להם תורה ומצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה ויאדיר.